Maria, I've just responded to your request. Oh, yay!
Ah,
Very
yay!
cool. We're both here. We made it happen. Two
I was over
technically
here
challenged people.
scrambling, trying to figure this out. I'm like, I have no idea how to get on, but there was not a button the first time, so I don't
Okay, no
know
problem at
what.
all. I'm glad that we got it to work after all. But yeah, can you hear me okay? Is the volume fine?
Yep, and same on my end.
You're a little bit quiet on my end. I don't know if people who are watching are also perceiving it as a little bit quiet, but I'm not sure. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, I'll try to speak a little louder here, maybe get a little closer to the phone.
Yeah. Hi, hi, Deanna, and hi, Jeffrey, and everybody else who is watching. Can you guys hear Maria okay also? Just give
Can
me
you
a
hear
thumbs
me
up if
okay?
it's all fine. Okay, cool. Well, I am super excited to have you on, Maria. Not just, okay, awesome. Seems like people can hear you. Not just because that means that I don't have to do all the talking today, but more importantly, because you're such a cool person to hang out with. And I'm just really excited for everybody to get to know you a little bit too. For people watching, Maria and I actually met up a couple of weeks ago here in Mexico when she was on vacation, but we have known each other through the nutrition coaching space for like how long? A year and a half, two? I don't even know.
Yeah, just over a year, I think. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
awesome.
it
Well,
seems like it's been
I'd love
longer.
to just start off by you introducing yourself a little bit, like where you live, how old you are, of course, what you do full time, and kind of how you got into nutrition coaching.
Yeah, so I am 31. I moved from Wisconsin down to Missouri back in last May. I work full time for a marketing firm in sales. I've been doing that since 2019, and I've been coaching, and I've had my coaching business for, I guess, since 2018. So.
Awesome. No, I think I love all the little stories and stuff that you share on your Instagram too about where you live and how you set up your days, because I think we have like we're somewhat similar in the routines that we love and that help us stay consistent and so on. And I loved seeing your move to back to Missouri because I mentioned to you you have a beautiful home there, and like some of the coolest stories I've seen on your Instagram were just of like deer in your backyard, or like all the various boating trips that you go on in summer and so on. So very, very cool. Yeah, and you mentioned, well, nutrition coaching and stuff like that, of course, but my first and like a big question, I guess, that I think people always like to hear too is how did you get into nutrition yourself? Like, how did you get interested? Was that something that you've always been interested in, or like your own personal journey? Have you ever been overweight or like anything like that, essentially?
Yeah, so great question. And I think my nutrition background, I mean, I've really kind of always been interested in it. I would say that like my mom was always very healthy, organic. She wants the fruits and vegetables. She wants, I guess growing up, I wasn't really surrounded by any of the like sugar foods and like, I mean, having high sugar cereals, all of that stuff, like that wasn't in my house, so it was kind of cool. I mean, growing up, being surrounded by that. When I went to college in 2009, I was a dietetics major. I did end up transitioning out, but I just had like just a big passion for food and feeling your body. And so I do have a little bit of background from that, but really what had gotten me even more into it in my first coaching experience, me hiring a coach, was in 2017. And that's when I decided that I was going to compete in a natural bodybuilding show in the OCB and the WNBF federations. So I went through a 6-month prep. I had gotten down the leanest I had ever been in my entire life, not something that you would want to be like year round, right? But I won both both of those shows. and then I competed at the pro level as well, and then I won my pro show. So that was in May of 2018. And really from like that whole process, I had a lot of people during that time, right? Like reaching out to me, what did you do? What are you doing? And at that time, it was more me just like giving advice, and I wasn't really coaching at that time. But post show, I was very vocal about my experience. That was really like the first time where I developed a very bad relationship with food. It was binging, it was like portion control. I'm like, I don't even know what that was at the time. I had very quickly gained, I think, 25 pounds. And just for reference, I am 5'2". So it was like a lot of body fat in a very short period of time. And just like my overall mindset, I really just like didn't feel supported during that time. And I eventually got out of it. I started like posting that part of my journey, which unfortunately, you know, I don't think is really, a lot of people don't talk about post-show stuff, you know, and I think because I did and I was so open about it, I had so many people flooding my inbox or my DMs saying like, help me out, like, you know, what did you do? And being able to help them through that experience was just so fulfilling for me. But that's really what like led me down the rabbit hole of starting to coach others was, of course, you know, like
your own
the
journey.
experience that I went through. Yes.
So cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think there's like so many follow-up questions that we can bring. Like if you're comfortable sharing, I would love for people to hear just like roughly what was your show weight, and where would you say is your comfortable weight now, and where did you like yo-yo, or not yo-yo, but where did you go up to post show? Not that scale weight obviously means a lot, but I just want to, you know, show people how unhealthy sometimes these shows can be.
100%. So I started out at maybe around like 118 pounds or so. Got down to, I remember my lowest weight, I hit just under 100 pounds.
Wow.
And it was, I mean, I was like 8.5% body fat. It was lean. I mean, my face was like emaciated at the end, and like I had it was like no body fat whatsoever. Post show, probably within about 2 months or so, I think I tipped the scale at like 129 pounds or something like that. So I guess it's an even greater swing than what I was thinking. So it was one extreme all the way to the other extreme.
Wow. Yes. And I mean, as you said, like it's just not sustainable. Unfortunately, we usually see those show pictures or like just before the show and we're like, well, it looks amazing. And then obviously not knowing what's behind it mentally in the sense of restriction, but also not paying attention to what can potentially come after. And the other question that I have, which interests me, is how did you get back from that, like no portion control whatsoever, into what you're doing now, which is also very much, you know, obviously my philosophy in the sense of feeling excited again to track macros, but also having like 1 or 2 meals out on the weekend. That's another thing that I love about your Instagram, is like you share openly that you have like you know, a flexible diet approach to dieting. You do go out for drinks with your friends every now and then, but then at the same time you do your meal prep during the week and so on. So yeah, I'd love to know that kind of what it took to get back into the swing, because I feel often people are struggling, like once they get out of the routine of everything, to find their way back in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it was like getting clear about my goals at the time, right? Like I knew at that time that I had developed such a poor relationship with food that I did need to get away from tracking macros, right?
Okay,
Because
yes.
I went through 6 months of like, so it was so diligent. Like I'm not going to eat a single thing that's outside of what I prepped, and it just created this relationship with food where I couldn't figure it out, right? So I like creating, I found that just small action steps. Like, how can I get through today? And how can I get through tomorrow? And how can I set myself up for success? And what I'll say is like, there were a lot of bumps in the road, you know, starting out. And like
I
what I
love
would,
that you say that because I feel like people always think, oh, it's so often you're like, I'll just get back into the routine or so, but like sharing that even when you were finding your path back in, there were still probably setbacks and days where you didn't track at all or, you know, things like that.
yep. And that's the beautiful thing, right? Is like I had gotten myself to this point where I'm like, even just getting like 2% better, like binging one less time or half as much, or you know, going out one less time, that was a win at the
Oh,
time, you
that's
know,
so
like
cool.
in being able to understand that. And I realized like through this whole process that so much of it was mental, right? Like I didn't believe that I was even capable of being the type of person that could like get back into a routine again, right? And I was just like, it was this self-sabotage that, you know, you see in a lot of your clients, and like all of these like limiting beliefs and everything that I had within myself and that I now see. I didn't really see that as much at the time. Now I'm like, this is clear as day. Like this was all on me, and I had so much more control than I was even realizing.
I'm honestly getting goosebumps just because I know that so many people can relate to that. And to anybody watching, I hope that this is somewhat motivating when you think like, I always have setbacks. It feels like I'm doing one step forward, two steps back, or whatever. But just finding that grace for yourself, and I'm sure that all of these experiences make you, or I know that all of these experiences that you've had, they make you the amazing coach that you are these days. And I'm wondering if your clients generally are kind of in that area, not necessarily in the competing area, but still like, what do you find are some of the most common struggles that your clients are experiencing?
Yeah, great question. And I think one of the biggest things that I've realized that is similar with all clients is that they feel the need to be 100% perfect.
Mm.
And you don't need to be. You don't need to be. You just need to be a little bit better than like last week, right? So I think that like that perfectionist mentality and the all or nothing mindset is like one of the biggest things, is like they don't realize that it doesn't need to be black or white. Like you, if you're going out on the weekend, that doesn't mean that you have to like make all the bad choices, right? Like you can still make some good choices, and like, how can I make the best of this moment right now given the circumstances that I'm in, you know? So it's not just like one thing or another. It's how can I like live a balanced life? And I mean, I find that that approach is what works, right? That's how you live that flexible dieting lifestyle, and that's how you're able to pivot when circumstances arise where like you weren't expecting, you know, certain things to be on the menu, or like the thing that you wanted wasn't on the menu. This actually happened to me the other day. I was like, dang it, I pre-logged it and everything, and I was ready to go, right? Because I'm in more of a strict phase right now, and it wasn't on the menu, and I'm like, that doesn't mean that I need to get a burger and fries and then have some of the appetizer, right? So
I love
it's
that.
like, what's the next best decision that I can make?
Very cool. I like that so much. Um, and I'm wondering because, of course, like I personally know that I also used to have even more perfectionistic tendencies and like that all or nothing type of thinking and so on. But what are some of the main tools that help you guide your clients towards that? Because I also think like many people that hear that are like, well, that's all well and good, but how do I get from that perfectionistic thinking to suddenly feeling that balance? You know, are there any specific things that you find are most helpful?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I always ask clients, I mean, like starting out is it's like a big awareness phase, right? Like you have to become aware of that you're even having certain thoughts before you can start like fixing them, right? So starting out with my clients, it's always just developing an awareness around like, what are my thoughts around, a lot of times it's food, right? What are my thoughts around that food, and like, do I need to eat it right now? Like, am I actually hungry? And like, why do I feel the need to, you know, I don't know, just indulge in this versus that? Or is that going to help me with my goals? Or am I like feeling a pull because I feel restricted and I can't have it?
Yeah.
So I feel that just being generally aware of your thoughts is like a perfect place to start with clients.
Yeah.
And from there, it's asking them questions about, like, say they did have a situation where they overate and they felt a sense of just like lost control. Asking questions about that and just trying to pull out information about it, and like, how can we get better next time? Like next time, and like, what can we learn from that situation? And is there any like commonalities in what happened this time versus what may have happened in the past? And then like comparing the two, and in 6 months from now, like, how do you feel right now versus where you were 6 months ago? They're
That's
like,
awesome.
oh my gosh, like I feel so much better. And I'm like, well, that's a win, like,
Yeah.
even though it's not 100% perfect, again, kind of reminding them of that. You don't need to be. This is why you're making progress.
Exactly, exactly. And even if I mean, we get sometimes I think a little bit discouraged because, of course, I know that you have like a periodized approach with most clients as well. You know, kind of giving them like a rough outline. Okay, you want to lose, let's say, 10 pounds, so that means we're gonna, go into a weight loss phase for 16 weeks or whatever, roughly. Of course, usually framing it that way. But nonetheless, they have that expectation of themselves and of the whole process. And then week 3 might not go as planned, and then week 7 might be like a setback week, and so on. So in the end, when we get to the 16 weeks, we might have only lost like 7 pounds or whatever. So then instead of seeing like, wow, I lost 7 pounds, that's freaking amazing, we think,
Mhm.
I didn't succeed at losing 10 pounds. And so like I'm saying that out of all the grace of my heart, because I'm the same way. If I set myself a target of I don't know, going to train 5 times and I only make it 4, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't hit all my training sessions this week. And it's like, just as you say, that awareness, or like catching yourself out as you're thinking these negative thoughts, is super helpful. And the other thing that I wanted to add to that, I also think over time, once people learn that, like, heading into trigger situation or these social situations, more well fed, like with more protein and more whole foods and so on, oftentimes automatically the desire to overeat that much is going to be naturally lower, right? Because you're already
Mhm.
feeling better in your body, as opposed to from the previous stage where they probably thought, oh, I have a big night on Friday, we're going to go and have pizza. That means starving yourself for half a day, or just living on protein shakes or whatever. And then going there, and then suddenly you're going overboard because you're finally having food, as opposed to saying like, why don't we try a salad with chicken for lunch, or maybe, some yogurt and fruit or so for breakfast, so that you have at least some fiber and your body still goes into the situation with a bit of a different setting.
I love that, and everything that you said, and even to add one more thing onto that is not limiting yourself to like, oh, I can't eat cookies, I can't have a single, you know, quote unquote bad food, and trying to eat 100% clean during the week. I mean, if you can add in a cookie here and, you know, an ice cream later on, you know,
Exactly.
like throughout the week, if you're able to like just regularly have that in your diet, you won't feel the need, such a pull to eat poorly on the weekends when, you know, again, it's kind of just like getting away from that all or nothing mindset.
Totally. I do think that it is still very difficult to get to that place for many people, because they think of it as a trigger food. So that, you know, if you think, okay, I do want to practice just having one cookie, but if I buy that bag of cookies, I can't stop.
Yeah.
And that is such a hard place like to practice, I think, because like encouraging the person to have it, but then essentially like opening whatever that box and like yeah, it's a hard transition, but nonetheless like leaning into that discomfort and like reinforcing to yourself like yes, I can do it, because so much of it is habitual, right? Like you open the bag and you think like, oh, I need to eat the whole thing. But yeah, that's definitely a big challenge.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
And I want to shift gears just like a little bit. You mentioned earlier, obviously, how passionate you have, not always, but you know, like been about nutrition for a really long time, essentially, starting with your dietetics and so on, just generally having an interest in health and well-being and so on. And I think like a really good point to discuss would be, or to hear more about, would be about how you manage to have your nutrition coaching business as a side hustle. And like from what I understand or know is that at the moment you're also not actually thinking or working towards making that your full-time job. And I actually think that that is so cool, because a lot of people think I have a passion, I need to make it my full-time thing. Or a lot of people think, you know, like it's one or the other. You like transitioning out of your job and going all in, that all hashtag like all in and so ever whatsoever. It's cool, but it doesn't need to be for everybody. And I think having a fulfilling side hustle can also add so much quality to your life. Essentially, we all know that if we're like fulfilled and have a high quality of life, all these things like relationships, relationship with food, wanting to train and so on, like everything is just going to be elevated. So I'm curious to hear from you, like A, how you manage to do that, because I mean your schedule must be full also, and B, like what inspired you to, or what made you want to pursue this kind of path, I guess.
Yeah, great question. So I don't know if I had mentioned in the beginning that I work full time for a marketing firm in sales, but I'm also remote. So when kind of think, you know, a lot of bad things happen with COVID and whatnot, but one really good thing that happened for me was I started to work remotely, and my productivity, my effort level, everything just skyrocketed, and my sales showed accordingly. And that was really what gave me the opportunity to be able to move down to Missouri, where I am now. But being able to navigate that, and then now that I'm remote, I can kind of like set my own schedule to a point, which has really been helpful for me. But I would say like the biggest thing that I have to do at this point is planning ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I every single night I am looking at my next day, and I am like, it is like to a T, my routine and everything. I put my water bottle out the night before so I'm ready the next morning. I put my clothes out because the first thing that I want to do is take care of myself in the morning and get a good workout in, right? Then I'm walking on the treadmill as I'm writing posts and, you know, catching up with clients and doing some of that stuff on the treadmill at the gym. And if I didn't have all this structure in place, I would never be able to do what I do, right? But I think the key is just like starting. Like you have to you know, you have to be willing to just get started with it, get uncomfortable. Like I don't know if you have a lot of listeners that are interested in potentially like starting a side business, but like I think a lot of people will like just say, you know, I'm going to wait until I'm ready or 100%, like I've got to get all these things in place. And it's like, just put yourself out there, you know, and, you know, get uncomfortable and ask people questions, like ask us, you know, I feel like there's so many people out there that are willing to give advice and to help. And I think just like putting yourself out there and being willing to, you know, communicate with others and learn from them is a good place to start.
Awesome. I love it. And I have probably a bit of a random question, but I'm just thinking that because, again, in terms of fulfillment and people thinking it has to be all or nothing, even when it comes to business. But would you say, and like either way, it's fine, but would you say that without the side hustle, whatever that is, you know, for whatever person, but without your side hustle, you personally, would you be as happy and fulfilled as you are right now?
No. Not at all, because you know, it's great. Like I think of my day job and it's awesome because I get to speak with marketing directors and CEOs of companies and you know, create strategic plans for them for the year, and that's really, really cool. But it does not compare to coaching. When you get to develop a relationship with a client one-on-one and watch their transformation, I just posted on my story yesterday, I had somebody who's with me for 12 weeks. And when she first got on the phone with me, she was like, Maria, I don't even know if you can help me. I'm like, this is where I'm at. And it was a lot of limiting beliefs and just like negative self-talk and all of this stuff. And she's not only lost like a significant amount of weight in 12 weeks, right? Slowly and sustainably. But like my win is the mindset portion. She checked in with me yesterday and it was like, Maria, I am realizing that I am capable. I went out to eat and I didn't overdo it. Like she's gaining such confidence in being able to watch this transformation happen. I mean, especially in the back half, right? The last 6 weeks, she is just like killing it. And that to me is like, it's better than me going through that transformation, you know, like every win that I can get, I'm like, you can't, for me, I'm just like, you can't get a greater sense of fulfillment than that, right? Like, it's like, this is why I do what I do.
That is so awesome. So, I mean, first of all, amazing with your client. That is so true. And I always say too, like, especially when I have my check-in days and so on, it gives me so much energy back. And that's not to say like, oh, everybody always has to write positive things in their check-in. That's not what I'm saying, but like just receiving, like if somebody makes progress, as you say, it's so fulfilling. And by the way, anybody listening, I'm not like trying to talk people into everybody has to have a side hustle. That's totally not what I'm saying. But I just know, I just think that if you're feeling unfulfilled, we often try to find it in our partner or in food or complaining about job or thinking I need to switch the job completely. And it really does not have to be the case, in my opinion, for everybody, whether that is working more in your church group or like starting to paint and starting like a painting group with your friends or a book club or whatever. Like I think these side hustles can add so much quality to your life, and that's essentially what I wanted to kind of bring across a little bit. And I wanted to like add on to, or not add on to, but like continue on from what you were saying with people having questions and so on. We actually had one question from someone in the group, and I'm gonna sort of read it out. So it's from Allison. Allison, thank you, by the way, for asking the question. So she says that she has always been very passionate about nutrition, and she's got a ton of knowledge just from, you know, researching a lot of stuff herself, trying things on her own, and basically, I think also tracking macros and so on, but she doesn't have any specific certifications yet. And so she's kind of wondering if we think like what certifications we can recommend, and B, if we think that you need to have a lot of certifications in order to be a good coach. She's mostly asking that because, again, she would like to apply her knowledge, help people, and so on, but she doesn't have any certs yet.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
My opinion, I think there's a lot of good certifications that are out there. I think one of the biggest things to look for is like, is it evidence-based? Is it backed by science? Is the information current? I think that's like first and foremost, one of the biggest things. And then secondly, I think it's like, it's got to align with your values and what you, just like, it's just got to like feel good to you too, and like, what are you passionate about? I think she had mentioned something about like prenatal or postnatal, or maybe it was menopause. Yeah. So, finding a certification that's specific in that realm too. And also if you have friends or family or anybody that that's gone through those certifications, what they recommend. One that I have personally been through, and I think you have as well, as Precision Nutrition. I would always recommend that. I think it's practical, it's bite size, like it's self-paced. I feel like that is a really good one that's evidence-based. That would be like the one, and I think she had mentioned NCI as well, yes. And I've heard good things about that. And have you been through
many NCI certifications, and what I love about NCI is that they openly say like, hey, all our information is technically available on Google, but what we excel with is appliance. So basically, any certification where you're not just like, this 9 calories in a gram of fat and blah, 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 but rather thinking of like, how do I bring things across to my clients? How do I do the hand holding and the periodization and all of that? And I like what you said in the sense of getting some feedback from other people that have been through similar certs. I personally, Allison, I think that you're in a great spot. Like, I would prefer to be coached by somebody who has passion and experience from a few years without a cert anytime over somebody who has no experience, 3 certifications, and is just basically doing it for the money. So, like, not to say that if you only have a cert and you have no certifications, because of course everybody has to start somewhere. That's not what I'm saying. But I think if somebody started off with just a cert, I would always recommend just coaching some friends and family for free for a little bit, getting some experience essentially. And in your situation, I think you have done the right thing by, already helping friends and educating yourself more and so on. And then hopefully you can at some point add one. I think, just in the sense of credibility and in the sense of having something to fall back on, it is important, if you actually want to make money with it, it is important to have some kind of certification. Like, it's not necessary to have a master's or whatever, but especially NCI, in my opinion, is a really good starter because it's not super expensive. It's reasonably short, so you have your seminar, and then it's basically 3 months where you're supposed to get some guinea pig clients, like, your best friend or whatever that you're working with, and that at the end of the 3 months you're handing in some kind of homework that they assess you on. So it's not super expensive, it's good quality, very applicable to actual coaching, and it would just get you started. Whereas I think some other certifications, I don't remember with Precision Nutrition, but it was, I think, a little bit longer, a little bit more time, effort. If you really want to devote some time to it without going through an actual bachelor's or master's degree, MNU, so Mac Nutrition University, is an amazing degree. It's about, it does take a year. It is somewhat self-paced. I think you do need to require a certain amount each week, but it's like an hour or two whenever you want to. So like if you do really want to have some backup, and there is like a prenatal part, there's a diabetes part, there is like specialized parts to it, I can highly recommend that. So MNU, Mac Nutrition University, but it is rather pricey and lengthy. So it kind of depends. But I guess my overall view is I think you're in an awesome position if you, or since you say you do want to make like a little bit of money on the side with it, I would, next step, since you already have a bit of experience and a lot of knowledge, I would just get a quick cert, the least expensive one sort of thing, and then just continuing to coach people and kind of build a brand as you go. But really cool question, and exciting that you're interested in joining us in the coaching realm, Allison.
So hope to see you in a couple months.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I totally want to respect your time. I think you've shared so much amazing information with us already, and I'm very grateful that you jumped on here with me today. I hope people got something valuable from it too. I think if I can find one main takeaway from what you have said is just moving away from perfectionistic thinking into more of a balanced lifestyle also, which obviously aligns very much with what I'm preaching to. But yeah, if you have maybe just to finish it off, like one or two things that you want to give people to go away with, that could be cool. And then of course sharing your Instagram name, because you put out so much amazing information too.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And this conversation has been great. One thing that I'll say is like, nobody is like perfect with anything. And I think about even today, I was debating on whether I even wanted to share this, but I really don't enjoy being on live video. And this is my first time doing it, right? And I think about that and I'm like, why is that? I have like these limiting beliefs with myself, and I'm really trying to power through and get out of my comfort zone. And that's why I share that, is because like even people who seem like it might be all natural for them, like I'm really uncomfortable. And I think back to the last 30 minutes and I'm like, this was a great conversation. Why do I not do this more, right? So I think that like just willing to get uncomfortable and put yourself in, out there. And then just that all or nothing mindset. Outside of that is just like, the more that you can get away from that, the better off that you're going to be.
I love it.
Yeah, and as far as my Instagram goes, it's just my name. It's Maria.Bearson, Maria.Bearson. You could find me
Perfect.
there.
I'll put that in the comments as well. But yeah, once again, just thank you for embracing the discomfort too, and I've very much enjoyed talking to you. I hope you have an awesome weekend. I don't know, do you guys have snow at the moment?
Not right now, but it is 7 degrees, so I've got my heater by me and a nice little blanket, and I think I'll stay indoors. So
I know sooner or later you will go for a walk with your dog or so anyway. Yes. But have a great weekend, and thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa.
Bye.